Rain had been falling since morning, turning the streets of Chicago into mirrors of gray light. When Elena Volkov stepped out of the taxi and looked up at St. Augustine Cathedral, she froze. The tall stone towers loomed like sentinels, watching her return to a city she'd once promised never to see again. 3 years. That's how long it had been since she'd last seen her twin sister, Isabel. 3 years since their final fight. 3 years since pride had built a wall too high to climb. Now Isabel was gone. Elena stood by the church steps, her fingers clenched around the funeral notice. Isabel Volkov, 29, killed in a single-vehicle accident on Lakeshore Drive. The words felt too neat, too final. Isabel had never been neat or final, she'd been chaos wrapped in sunshine. A man in a black coat brushed past her, muttering condolences to someone. Behind him, more mourners filed in, women with perfect hair, men in expensive suits, faces she didn't know. These aren't her people, Elena thought. Isabel didn't belong to this world of diamonds and dark cars. The cold wind carried the scent of rain and lilies. She swallowed hard, then started up the steps. Inside, the cathedral glowed with candles. Organ music filled the air, soft, mournful, endless. Elena slipped in quietly, the sound of her heels echoing against the marble floor. Her eyes moved to the front of the church, to the white coffin surrounded by flowers. She felt the air shift before she understood why. People were staring. Whispers spread like wildfire through the pews. Heads turned. A woman gasped, clutching her chest. Elena, someone whispered. Isabel? No, she's dead. Dozens of eyes followed her as if they'd seen a ghost walk in. Her pulse raced. Her throat went dry. She wanted to explain, to shout, I'm not her, I'm her sister. But her voice caught in her chest. She kept walking, each step heavy with the weight of memories she'd spent years trying to bury. At the front pew, a man rose to his feet. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit that looked tailor-made for power. His dark hair was slicked back, his jaw set in stone. But his eyes, God, those eyes looked broken. He stared at her like he'd just seen the dead come back to life. Elena, he whispered, but the name came out strangled, confused. No. Isabel. His voice cracked. She saw his hand tremble as he reached toward her. I'm not Isabel, she said softly, her voice echoing through the vast hall. My name is Elena. I'm her twin sister. The room fell silent. You could hear the priest stop mid-sentence. The rain outside beat harder against the stained glass. The man froze. Hope drained from his face, replaced by disbelief. Twin sister, he repeated slowly. She never mentioned you. Elena forced herself to meet his gaze. We hadn't spoken in years. His jaw tightened. She said she had no family left. No parents. No siblings. She lied, Elena said simply. We both did, once. He studied her for a long moment, as if comparing her face to the one he'd loved. And in that silence, she saw the grief inside him transform, turning into something sharper, darker. I'm Adrian DeLuca, he said finally. Isabel's fiancé. His voice was low, rough, carrying the kind of authority that didn't need to shout. Elena nodded. I know who you are. Her tone came out colder than she intended, but she couldn't help it. Her sister had fallen in love with this man. The man whose name had shown up in every whispered rumor, every newspaper headline connected to power and blood. A mafia boss. A man people feared to even name aloud. Adrian's dark gaze didn't leave her. He took a small card from his pocket and pressed it into her hand. Come to this address. 1 hour. I didn't come here for. Come, he interrupted, his voice dropping to steel. Or you'll regret it. Then he turned back to the casket, his expression unreadable, and sat down. Elena looked at the card. No name. No company. Just an address. The kind of address where questions had dangerous answers. She slipped it into her pocket, her hands shaking, then took a seat near the back. Her eyes stayed fixed on the coffin. For a long time, she didn't move. The reception was held in a private hall attached to the cathedral, a place filled with hushed voices and the soft clink of glasses. Elena lingered near the window, pretending to look outside while listening to the crowd behind her. Everyone was watching her. They called her Isabel in whispers, some crossing themselves like they'd seen a miracle, others whispering with fear. It was the same face, the same hair, the same eyes, but where Isabel had shone with warmth, Elena's gaze was cold calculation. She'd learned long ago that observation was a weapon. "Excuse me," said a gentle voice behind her. Elena turned to find a woman about her sister's age, holding a glass of champagne that trembled slightly in her hand. "I'm sorry to bother you. You look so much like her." Elena forced a polite smile. "I've been hearing that all day." "I'm Rachel," the woman said. "I worked with Isabel at the gallery. She talked about you once." "She did?" Elena's heart clenched. "What did she say?" "Just that she missed you." Rachel's voice softened. She didn't go into details. Isabel was private, but I could tell it hurt her. "Whatever happened between you two?" Elena looked down, swallowing hard. "We both said things we shouldn't have." Rachel hesitated, then glanced over her shoulder nervously. She was scared, you know. The last few weeks before she died. She kept looking over her shoulder. Jumping at shadows. Scared of what? Rachel shook her head. "I don't know. She wouldn't tell me. Just said, if anything happens, don't believe what they say." Her fingers twisted around the glass. I thought she was being dramatic, but now, she looked up at Elena, eyes wide. "Do you think it wasn't an accident?" Elena hesitated. The question echoed her own fear. "I don't know yet," she said quietly. "But I'm going to find out." Before Rachel could respond, the mood in the room changed. Conversations faded, and a quiet ripple went through the crowd. Adrian DeLuca had arrived. He moved through the hall like a storm dressed in silk, commanding, cold, magnetic. Every head turned as he passed, people parting to make way for him. His expression was unreadable, but his presence filled the room. He found Elena instantly. His gaze locked on hers like gravity itself. He nodded once, toward a door at the far end of the room. Rachel whispered, "Be careful." Then she slipped away into the crowd. Elena took a deep breath and followed Adrian. The smaller room was quiet and windowless. Expensive paintings hung on the walls, the air thick with the scent of whiskey and rain-soaked wool. Adrian stood with his back to her, staring at a painting, a stormy seascape. He didn't turn when he spoke. "Close the door." Elena hesitated. "I'd rather not." He turned slowly, one dark brow lifting. That wasn't a request. Something in his tone made her obey. The door clicked shut behind her. Adrian studied her for a long moment, his gaze tracing the lines of her face like he was searching for Isabel beneath the surface. "You believe Isabel was murdered," he said flatly. "Why?" Elena folded her arms. "Because she was careful. She never drove fast. She checked her car religiously. A single car crash on a straight road doesn't make sense." Adrian's expression didn't change, but his eyes darkened. "You're observant." "It's what I do," she said. "I'm a translator. Languages, code, details. I notice things." He poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed one to her. She didn't take it. "The people you overheard at the funeral," he said. "They mentioned Albanians. Did you understand what they said?" "Yes. Something about brake lines. A message." "Then you were right." He downed his drink. "They killed her. Because of me." The words hit her like a fist. "Because of you. I warned her what being with me meant. She stayed anyway. And you let her." His gaze snapped to hers. "What are you accusing me of?" "I don't know yet," she said. "Maybe nothing. Maybe everything." Adrian took a slow step toward her. "You talk like someone trained to read people. To find weakness." Elena held her ground. "Maybe I am." "Who taught you?" "Our parents," she said before she could stop herself. His eyes narrowed. "Spies. Survivors." The silence that followed felt electric. He stepped closer until she could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke. "You move like someone who's always planning an escape," he said quietly. "That's not an ordinary skill. And you stare like a man who's used to being obeyed." He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "You're not afraid of me?" "I haven't decided yet." Adrian leaned closer. "Fear keeps people alive. So does truth," she shot back. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other, grief and suspicion tangled in something neither of them wanted to name. Then he stepped back and poured himself another drink. "You want the truth? Isabel died because she was close to me. The Albanians wanted to send a message. But I'm going to find out who gave the order." "And then what?" Elena asked. "Then," he said softly, "I end them." Elena believed him. Every word carried the quiet certainty of a man who'd already buried enemies. "I want in," she said suddenly. Adrian turned sharply. "No. She was my sister. And she was my fiancée." His voice hardened. "You're not built for this world. You don't know what I'm built for." He stepped closer again, studying her face like it was a puzzle. "You're colder than she was," he said finally. Sharper. "Isabel would beg, cry, forgive. You look like you'd burn the world down for an answer." "Maybe I would." For the first time, his expression shifted, respect flickering through the grief. "Then we have something in common." Before Elena could reply, the door burst open. Franco, Adrian's security chief, stepped in, gun drawn, blood running down his temple. "Boss," he said, breathing hard. "They found her." "Who?" Adrian snapped. "Two men in a black sedan. Same ones who followed her from the airport. Albanians. They've been outside her hotel since this morning." Adrian turned to Elena. "You're not going back there." "I can take care of myself," she said. "With what?" Sharp words and logic. His tone cut like glass. "You walk out of here alone, they'll kill you before sunrise. So what's your solution?" "You stay at my estate. Full security. Until this is over." Elena's jaw tightened. "You expect me to live in your house like some prisoner?" "Guest," he corrected. "Protected guest." "I don't want your protection." Adrian's gaze burned into hers. "Then consider it insurance. For me. For you." He stepped closer, his voice a low growl. "Because if they kill you, Elena, every man in Chicago will believe Isabel DeLuca rose from the grave, and my enemies will use that to destroy everything I've built." Silence stretched. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. Finally, Elena spoke. "Fine. I'll come. But we do this my way." Adrian's mouth curved, not a smile, exactly, but something close. "You're negotiating with me?" "I'm surviving." He nodded once. "Then pack your things. Franco will take you to the house. And you?" "I'll handle what comes next." As Franco led her toward the exit, Elena glanced back one last time. Adrian stood by the window, rain painting silver lines down the glass, his reflection a ghost beside her own. She didn't know if she was walking into safety or into hell. But she knew one thing for certain. Her sister hadn't died by accident. And whatever truth waited ahead, she wasn't going to run from it. The drive north was long and silent. Elena sat in the back seat of a black SUV, rain sliding down the windows in silver streaks. Franco drove with both hands tight on the wheel, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. Two more cars followed behind them, dark silhouettes moving through the wet streets. Elena didn't ask where they were going. The air was thick with the kind of tension that made words useless. When they finally turned off the main road, the city fell away behind them. They passed through tall iron gates that swung open automatically. Beyond them stretched a private road lined with pines and the dark shimmer of water in the distance. Then the mansion appeared, stone and glass rising from the edge of Lake Michigan like something carved out of the storm itself. Franco parked under the awning and stepped out first. "We're here, Miss Volkov," he said, opening her door. "Please, stay close." Elena followed him up the steps. The front doors opened before they reached them, revealing a foyer so vast it made her stop short. Marble floors reflected the light from a chandelier that looked older than the house itself. The air smelled faintly of cedar, smoke, and something floral she couldn't name. "Mr. DeLuca will be back soon," Franco said. "I'll show you to your room." He led her up the curved staircase, past framed photographs on the wall, dozens of them. Elena slowed when she realized what they showed. Isabel. Her sister's face smiled out from every frame. Isabel laughing on a boat. Isabel holding a camera. Isabel standing beside Adrian, sunlight in her hair. The photos felt like ghosts caught in glass, staring back at her. Franco stopped in front of a door at the end of the hall. "You'll be safe here," he said, opening it. "There are guards outside, but only for protection." Elena stepped inside and looked around. The room was enormous, soft cream walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, and a balcony that caught the faint scent of rain. The bed was perfectly made, and on the dresser sat another photo. Isabel again. She swallowed. "Did he put me in her room?" Franco hesitated, then nodded. "It's the most secure one." Elena almost laughed. "Of course it is." When he left, she walked to the window and looked out. The lake stretched into darkness, endless and cold. Her reflection stared back her face, but not Isabel's smile. She pulled the curtains closed and turned away. The closet was filled with women's clothes, dresses in deep reds and blues, the kind Isabel would have loved. Elena ran her hand over the fabric, half expecting her sister to walk in laughing at the absurdity of it all. Instead, silence pressed against her ears. She checked the door, the balcony, the windows. Old habits. She'd learned to evaluate every room, every angle, every exit. It was how their parents had raised them, to survive, not to trust. By the time she sat down on the bed, exhaustion dragged at her. But sleep didn't come. Only memories did: the last fight, the slammed door, the years of silence. When the knock came an hour later, she already knew who it was. "Come in," she said. Adrian entered quietly, still in the same suit from the funeral but without the tie. The top buttons of his shirt were undone, and he looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. "You settled in?" he asked. "As much as I can be in a stranger's house." He looked around the room. "This wasn't meant to unsettle you. You put me in her room. It's the safest one. That's what your man said." She crossed her arms. "But let's not pretend it was just about safety." Adrian's jaw flexed. "You think this is easy for me? You walk in with her face, her voice, her eyes. And every time I look at you, I have to remind myself she's gone." Something sharp twisted in her chest. "Then maybe stop looking." Silence. Then, softer, he said, "You shouldn't have come back, Elena. This world eats people alive. Especially people who look like her. I didn't come for your protection. I came for answers." He studied her for a long time. "Then you'd better start asking the right questions." Elena met his gaze. "Who killed my sister?" "The Albanian syndicate," he said. "But someone inside my organization helped them. A leak. I'll find out who." "You think it was one of your own?" "I know it was." She took a step closer. "And what happens when you find them?" Adrian's eyes were dark and calm. "Justice." "You mean revenge?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The sound of thunder rolled across the lake, followed by the faint hum of security radios downstairs. Adrian moved to the window, watching the flashes of light. "She used to stand here," he said quietly. "Every morning, taking pictures of the water. Said it looked different every day." Elena turned away. "You talk about her like she was some perfect memory." "She wasn't," Adrian said. "She was reckless. Brave. She believed she could live in my world without losing herself." He looked at Elena. She was wrong. Elena felt something cold settle inside her. "And you let her try." He didn't respond. The storm deepened outside, rain hammering the glass. For a moment, the sound filled the silence between them. Then Adrian said, "You should rest. Tomorrow we start digging." "I'm not your employee." "No," he said. "You're my last chance to understand why she died." He left before she could answer. When the door closed, Elena stood there for a long time, listening to the sound of rain and her own heartbeat. The mansion felt alive with secrets, and she knew she had just stepped into the center of something dangerous, something that had already killed her sister once. The next morning dawned gray and sharp, the lake glinting like steel under a sky heavy with clouds. Elena woke early. She hadn't slept much. Dreams had dragged her through flashes of Isabel's laughter, her anger, and the screech of tires that she'd never actually heard. Downstairs, the house was quiet. She found the kitchen by following the smell of coffee. Franco was there, leaning against the counter. "Morning," he said, setting a mug down for her. "You sleep?" "Not really. Didn't think so." She took the coffee and studied him. His face was older, lined, but his eyes were sharp, the kind of man who'd seen too much and stopped pretending otherwise. "You were close to Isabel?" she asked. "As close as anyone could be," he said. "She made this place feel human. After she died, it went quiet again." Elena sipped her coffee. "Do you believe it was an accident?" Franco hesitated. "No." Before she could press, a voice cut through the hallway. "Franco." Adrian appeared, crisp in a dark shirt, his expression already in control. "Come with me." Franco nodded, grabbed his radio, and followed. Elena finished her coffee, set the cup down, and started wandering. The mansion was enormous, but the silence made it smaller. Every room was immaculate, curated like someone trying to erase the past but not quite managing it. She ended up in a room she hadn't seen before, Isabel's studio. Light poured through wide windows. Easels, canvases, and camera equipment filled the space. A table stood near the wall with a few half-developed photos, curled from neglect. Elena ran her hand across the surface, dust gathering on her fingertips. She recognized her sister's handwriting scrawled on a note taped to the wall. "Find the truth before it finds you." Her stomach tightened. She started checking drawers, old sketchbooks, anything that might explain the note. Most of it was harmless sketches, unfinished photos, little reminders of a life half-lived. Then she saw it, a small square of canvas that looked slightly thicker than the others. She pressed her fingers along the edge and felt something inside. A folded notebook slid out. Her pulse spiked. It was a journal, leather-bound, worn, filled with Isabel's handwriting. The first pages were ordinary, notes about photo shoots, clients, ideas. But deeper inside, the tone changed. Dates. Names. License plates. Places. And a word repeated over and over again, Serrano. Elena frowned. The name felt familiar. She flipped through faster. Serrano met with a man at the docks. Spoke in Albanian. Payment delivered. Adrian can't know. Not yet. If I disappear, it's him. Or the ones he trusts. A chill spread down her spine. Elena. She jumped. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching her. "What are you doing in here?" "I was looking for something. I found this." She held up the journal. He crossed the room, took it from her, and opened it. His eyes moved quickly over the pages, and she saw the moment the name hit him. His whole body went still. "Serrano," he said under his breath. "Who is he?" "My second in command. The one I've trusted for 15 years. Elena crossed her arms. "Looks like your trust was misplaced." Adrian's jaw tightened. Don't what?" "Say what's written there. That your right-hand man sold her out." He slammed the journal shut. "You don't know that." "I know she did." He turned on her, eyes dark and furious. "You think I don't already blame myself? You think I haven't spent every night wishing I'd done something different?" Elena stared back, unflinching. "Then prove it. Find out if she was right." For a long time, he didn't speak. The tension between them hummed like a live wire. Finally, he said, "If Serrano betrayed me, I'll end him myself." "You'll need proof." "I'll get it." He looked down at the journal again. His expression had shifted, less rage, more calculation. "She wrote this 3 weeks before she died," he murmured. "That's when things started changing. She stopped sleeping. Stopped talking to me about her work. I thought she was just tired." "She was scared," Elena said softly. "Your enemies were getting closer, and she didn't trust anyone enough to tell them." Adrian looked up at her, and for a moment, the mask dropped. The man beneath the power looked haunted. "You're different from her," he said quietly. "She looked for beauty. You look for weakness. Maybe that's why I'm still alive." He almost smiled, almost. "We'll meet with Serrano tonight. Franco will arrange it. And if he's guilty, Adrian's voice turned cold. Then this house won't be the only thing that burns. The storm had passed by nightfall, but the air still smelled of rain. The lake outside was calm again, deceptively peaceful. Elena stood on the balcony, watching the lights shimmer across the water. Below, she could see men patrolling the property, silent shadows under the moon. Behind her, the door opened. She didn't turn. Franco says the meeting's set for midnight, Adrian said. Convenient hour. Darkness hides things people shouldn't see. She looked over her shoulder. Like you? He stepped closer, the faint scent of his cologne brushing the air between them. Like both of us. Elena didn't move. For a moment, the world seemed suspended between what was right and what was inevitable. Adrian's hand came to rest on the railing beside hers. You're not what I expected, he said. And what did you expect? A ghost. She met his gaze. Maybe I am. No, he said softly. You're the fire she never had. Their eyes held for a heartbeat too long, the kind of silence that made breathing feel dangerous. Then he stepped back. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we finish what she started. When he was gone, Elena looked back at the lake. The reflection of the house shimmered on the surface, bright, fragile, easily broken. In the distance, thunder rumbled again, low and warning. The storm wasn't over. It was just moving closer. The night was colder than the one before, though the air inside Adrian De Luca's mansion burned with tension. Elena sat at the edge of the long dining table, the journal open in front of her. She'd spent the last hour rereading Isabel's words until her vision blurred. The same lines echoed in her mind, circling her like a noose. If I disappear, it's Serrano. Don't trust anyone, not even Adrian. The sentence had been underlined twice. Elena. She looked up to see Adrian entering the room. His black shirt was open at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal the strength in his forearms. He moved with quiet authority, like a storm that hadn't yet broken. We leave in 30 minutes, he said. Franco is preparing the cars. Where are we going? To meet Serrano. I want to see how he reacts when he hears Isabel's name. And if he's innocent, she asked. Adrian's eyes met hers. Then I'll apologize. And if he's guilty? Then we'll see how long he can scream. Elena's pulse quickened, but she didn't flinch. You think violence will bring peace? I don't believe in peace, Adrian said evenly. Only balance. Violence restores balance when words fail. She shut the journal. Maybe you should try both. He gave her a sharp look, one that lingered a moment too long. Careful, Elena. You sound like you're giving me orders. Maybe I am, she replied. You asked for my help, remember? For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, surprisingly, his mouth twitched into the faintest smile. You're impossible. I've been told that before. The warehouse stood on the outskirts of the city, a cold skeleton of concrete and shadows. By the time they arrived, the rain had stopped, leaving puddles that mirrored the moonlight. Adrian's men fanned out silently, checking the perimeter. Franco stayed near the SUV, hand resting on his gun. Elena followed Adrian inside, her heart steady but her thoughts sharp. Serrano was already there. A tall man with salt and pepper hair, dressed in a suit too nice for this place. He turned as they entered, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Boss, he said. You wanted to see me. Adrian walked forward, each step deliberate. We need to talk about Isabel. The smile faltered. What about her? She was investigating something before she died. Something involving you. Serrano's jaw tightened. That's absurd. Adrian held out the journal. She wrote your name, Marco. Over and over. Serrano's eyes flicked to the book but didn't move closer. Anyone could have written that. True, Adrian said, voice calm. But no one else had her handwriting. Franco shifted slightly, his hand moving closer to his weapon. The air thickened. Elena studied Serrano's face. The man's expression was smooth, too controlled. But his fingers twitched once at his side, small, nervous. She knew something, Elena said quietly. Something you didn't want her to share. Serrano's gaze snapped to her. Who the hell are you? Elena Volkov, she said. Her sister. Shock flickered across his features, but only for a second. Sister, he repeated, almost whispering. You shouldn't have come here. And why not? Because people who dig into old graves end up in them. Before Adrian could move, Elena stepped forward. You think threats scare me? My sister's dead because of you. You made her trust you. Serrano's mask slipped. She trusted too easily. That was all Adrian needed. He grabbed Serrano by the collar and slammed him against a pillar. The sound echoed through the warehouse like a gunshot. She trusted me, Adrian said through clenched teeth. And you used that. You sold her to the Albanians. Serrano struggled, gasping. You don't understand. Adrian's fist connected with his face. Once. Twice. Blood splattered across the concrete. Adrian, Elena said sharply. Stop. He didn't. His rage was a living thing, something primal that filled the room. Serrano slumped, coughing blood. Elena moved closer. You're not helping. Adrian's breathing was heavy, but he froze when she touched his arm. Just a hand against his sleeve, cold meeting heat. Her voice softened. Let him talk. If you kill him now, you'll never know the truth. For a long second, Adrian didn't move. Then, slowly, he released Serrano, who collapsed to the floor. Blood dripped from the corner of the man's mouth. He looked up with glassy eyes. You think I wanted her dead? Adrian's voice was ice. Convince me otherwise. Serrano coughed, spitting blood onto the ground. They threatened my family. The Albanians, Castrati's men, they said they'd take my wife and son if I didn't give them information. So you gave them Isabel, Adrian hissed. They said they wouldn't hurt her. Serrano's voice cracked. They just wanted leverage. You were expanding into their territory. She was a message, nothing more. Adrian's expression twisted with disgust. You call that a message? You let them kill her. Serrano slumped forward. I never meant. The rest of his words drowned under the sharp click of Adrian's gun being drawn. Elena stepped between them. Stop. He didn't look at her. Move. No. Elena. Shoot him and you lose everything, she said. Proof. Leverage. Your control. His jaw flexed. For a heartbeat, she thought he'd fire anyway. Then his arm lowered, the gun falling to his side. Franco, he said tightly. Take him. I want him locked up. Franco nodded, grabbing Serrano by the collar and dragging him away. When they were alone, Adrian turned to Elena. His chest rose and fell, breath still ragged. You shouldn't have interfered. You'd have killed him, she said. And then what? You'd still be blind. He glared at her, then exhaled slowly, the anger fading just enough to leave exhaustion behind. You keep challenging me. Someone has to. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Adrian said quietly, you saved his life tonight. I didn't do it for him. Their eyes locked. There was too much between them, grief, guilt, anger, and something else simmering beneath the surface. Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. You remind me of her, but you're nothing like her. Good, Elena said. Because I'm not here to repeat her mistakes. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his breath against her skin. Then what are you here for, Elena? To finish what she started, she said. To find the truth. His eyes softened for the briefest second. And after that? She hesitated, then whispered, I don't know. Adrian reached up, his hand brushing against her cheek, rough, hesitant, human. Then stay until you do. The air between them thickened, unsteady and electric. He stepped closer, the faint scent of his cologne brushing the air between them. Like both of us. Elena didn't move. For a moment, the world seemed suspended between what was right and what was inevitable. Adrian's hand came to rest on the railing beside hers. You're not what I expected, he said. And what did you expect? A ghost. She met his gaze. Maybe I am. No, he said softly. You're the fire she never had. Their eyes held for a heartbeat too long, the kind of silence that made breathing feel dangerous. Then he stepped back. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we finish what she started. When he was gone, Elena looked back at the lake. The reflection of the house shimmered on the surface, bright, fragile, easily broken. In the distance, thunder rumbled again, low and warning. The storm wasn't over. It was just moving closer. The night was colder than the one before, though the air inside Adrian DeLuca's mansion burned with tension. Elena sat at the edge of the long dining table, the journal open in front of her. She'd spent the last hour rereading Isabel's words until her vision blurred. The same lines echoed in her mind, circling her like a noose. If I disappear, it's Serrano. Don't trust anyone, not even Adrian. The sentence had been underlined twice. Elena. She looked up to see Adrian entering the room. His black shirt was open at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal the strength in his forearms. He moved with quiet authority, like a storm that hadn't yet broken. We leave in 30 minutes, he said. Franco is preparing the cars. Where are we going? To meet Serrano. I want to see how he reacts when he hears Isabel's name. And if he's innocent, she asked. Adrian's eyes met hers. Then I'll apologize. And if he's guilty, then we'll see how long he can scream. Elena's pulse quickened, but she didn't flinch. You think violence will bring peace? I don't believe in peace, Adrian said evenly. Only balance. Violence restores balance when words fail. She shut the journal. Maybe you should try both. He gave her a sharp look, one that lingered a moment too long. Careful, Elena. You sound like you're giving me orders. Maybe I am, she replied. You asked for my help, remember? For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, surprisingly, his mouth twitched into the faintest smile. You're impossible. I've been told that before. The warehouse stood on the outskirts of the city, a cold skeleton of concrete and shadows. By the time they arrived, the rain had stopped, leaving puddles that mirrored the moonlight. Adrian's men fanned out silently, checking the perimeter. Franco stayed near the SUV, hand resting on his gun. Elena followed Adrian inside, her heart steady but her thoughts sharp. Serrano was already there. A tall man with salt and pepper hair, dressed in a suit too nice for this place. He turned as they entered, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Boss, he said. You wanted to see me. Adrian walked forward, each step deliberate. We need to talk about Isabel. The smile faltered. What about her? She was investigating something before she died. Something involving you. Serrano's jaw tightened. That's absurd. Adrian held out the journal. She wrote your name, Marco. Over and over. Serrano's eyes flicked to the book but didn't move closer. Anyone could have written that. True, Adrian said, voice calm. But no one else had her handwriting. Franco shifted slightly, his hand moving closer to his weapon. The air thickened. Elena studied Serrano's face. The man's expression was smooth, too controlled. But his fingers twitched once at his side, small, nervous. She knew something, Elena said quietly. Something you didn't want her to share. Serrano's gaze snapped to her. Who the hell are you? Elena Volkov, she said. Her sister. Shock flickered across his features, but only for a second. Sister, he repeated, almost whispering. You shouldn't have come here. And why not? Because people who dig into old graves end up in them. Before Adrian could move, Elena stepped forward. You think threats scare me? My sister's dead because of you. You made her trust you. Serrano's mask slipped. She trusted too easily. That was all Adrian needed. He grabbed Serrano by the collar and slammed him against a pillar. The sound echoed through the warehouse like a gunshot. She trusted me, Adrian said through clenched teeth. And you used that. You sold her to the Albanians. Serrano struggled, gasping. You don't understand. Adrian's fist connected with his face. Once. Twice. Blood splattered across the concrete. Adrian, Elena said sharply. Stop. He didn't. His rage was a living thing, something primal that filled the room. Serrano slumped, coughing blood. Elena moved closer. You're not helping. Adrian's breathing was heavy, but he froze when she touched his arm. Just a hand against his sleeve, cold meeting heat. Her voice softened. Let him talk. If you kill him now, you'll never know the truth. For a long second, Adrian didn't move. Then, slowly, he released Serrano, who collapsed to the floor. Blood dripped from the corner of the man's mouth. He looked up with glassy eyes. You think I wanted her dead? Adrian's voice was ice. Convince me otherwise. Serrano coughed, spitting blood onto the ground. They threatened my family. The Albanians, Castrati's men, they said they'd take my wife and son if I didn't give them information. So you gave them Isabel, Adrian hissed. They said they wouldn't hurt her. Serrano's voice cracked. They just wanted leverage. You were expanding into their territory. She was a message, nothing more. Adrian's expression twisted with disgust. You call that a message? You let them kill her. Serrano slumped forward. I never meant. The rest of his words drowned under the sharp click of Adrian's gun being drawn. Elena stepped between them. Stop. He didn't look at her. Move. No. Elena. Shoot him and you lose everything, she said. Proof. Leverage. Your control. His jaw flexed. For a heartbeat, she thought he'd fire anyway. Then his arm lowered, the gun falling to his side. Franco, he said tightly. Take him. I want him locked up. Franco nodded, grabbing Serrano by the collar and dragging him away. When they were alone, Adrian turned to Elena. His chest rose and fell, breath still ragged. You shouldn't have interfered. You'd have killed him, she said. And then what? You'd still be blind. He glared at her, then exhaled slowly, the anger fading just enough to leave exhaustion behind. You keep challenging me. Someone has to. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Adrian said quietly, you saved his life tonight. I didn't do it for him. Their eyes locked. There was too much between them, grief, guilt, anger, and something else simmering beneath the surface. Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. You remind me of her, but you're nothing like her. Good, Elena said. Because I'm not here to repeat her mistakes. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his breath against her skin. Then what are you here for, Elena? To finish what she started, she said. To find the truth. His eyes softened for the briefest second. And after that? She hesitated, then whispered, I don't know. Adrian reached up, his hand brushing against her cheek, rough, hesitant, human. Then stay until you do. The air between them thickened, unsteady and electric. When he finally turned away, she felt her heartbeat in her throat. She'd stopped a killing tonight. But she wasn't sure who had really saved whom. The next day, the mansion was different. The guards were tense, the halls quieter than before. Everyone knew Serrano was being held in the basement alive, but barely. Elena sat in the library, watching rain streak the tall windows. The storm outside felt like the echo of everything inside her. She had what she wanted, proof that Isabel hadn't died by accident. But satisfaction felt hollow. When Adrian entered, she didn't look up. Did you get anything from him? His talking, Adrian said, voice rough from sleeplessness. He gave me names. Accounts. Contacts. And one name keeps coming up. He hesitated. Castrati. Elena frowned. Who's that? Victor Castrati, Adrian said. Albanian boss. The man who wants Chicago. He ordered Isabel's death. The words were heavy, final. Elena's fingers tightened on her cup of coffee. Then that's who you're going after next. Yes, Adrian said. But this isn't just about revenge anymore. He knows who you are now. She looked at him sharply. What? Serrano talked before we caught him. He told Castrati about you, about Isabel's twin. You've become leverage again. So I'm bait, she said flatly. You're a target, Adrian corrected. And I'm not letting you out of my sight until Castrati is dead. Elena stood, crossing the room. You can't protect me forever. I can try, he said. Their eyes met. For a moment, the tension between them felt like a thread stretched too thin. Tell me something, she said quietly. Did you love her? Adrian blinked. Isabel? Yes. He was silent for a long time, then nodded once. I did. More than I knew how to. What happened? He sighed and sat down, elbows on his knees. She wanted to change me. Thought she could pull me out of the life. I wanted to believe her. But this world doesn't let go. We fought. The night she died, I told her I couldn't promise her peace. She left angry. I never saw her again. Elena's throat tightened. So she died thinking you didn't love her. She died because of me, Adrian said quietly. That's worse. Elena crossed her arms. You don't get to keep punishing yourself forever. If you really want to make it right, finish what she started. Stop pretending you're the only one broken by this. Adrian looked up sharply. You talk like someone who's used to war. I am, she said simply. Just a different kind. Their eyes locked, and for a long moment, neither looked away. You want to find Castrati? Elena said finally. Then we do it together. He hesitated, studying her face. You're not staying out of this, are you? Not a chance. A slow, reluctant smile ghosted across his lips. You're going to get me killed. Maybe, she said, almost smiling back. But you'll die closer to the truth. That night, thunder rolled again across the lake, low and heavy. Adrian stood by the window of his study, watching the lightning. The glass reflected his face and, behind him, Elena's. She'd come in without a sound, her footsteps soft on the floor. You should rest, he said without turning. So should you. He glanced at her reflection. I can't sleep. Because of her. Because of you. She blinked. Me. He turned then, his eyes dark and unreadable. You walk into my life wearing her face, her voice, her memory. But when I look at you, I see someone completely different. Someone who isn't afraid of the dark. I learned to live in it, she said. He moved closer, slow, deliberate. And now I can't stop thinking about you. Elena's breath caught. This is wrong. Maybe, he said softly. But it feels real. He reached for her, stopping inches away, waiting. She didn't move. His hand brushed her jaw, his thumb tracing the edge of her lips. The touch was both gentle and dangerous. Tell me to stop, he murmured. She should have. She knew she should. But instead, she whispered, I can't. Then his mouth was on hers, rough at first, then slower, deeper, the kind of kiss that felt like falling. When they finally broke apart, her heart was racing. This changes nothing, she said, breathless. Adrian's voice was low. It changes everything. He walked away before she could answer, leaving her standing in the middle of the room, trembling. Outside, lightning flashed over the lake. Inside, everything between them had already begun to burn. The night was quiet when they left the mansion, the air heavy with the promise of violence. Adrian's convoy moved through the empty streets in silence, 3 black SUVs gliding under the pale wash of streetlights. Elena sat beside him in the back seat, dressed in black, her hair tied up, eyes fixed on the city sliding by outside. They hadn't spoken much since the night in the study, since the kiss. It hung between them like something neither could name nor ignore. Are you sure about this? Adrian asked suddenly, his gaze flicking toward her. Yes. You don't even know what we're walking into. She turned to him. That's never stopped me before. He smiled faintly, a dark, tired smile. You're going to be the death of me, Elena. Maybe, she said softly. But at least I'll make it count. The convoy slowed as they approached the warehouse district near the docks, a maze of empty buildings and broken glass. Franco's voice came over the radio. We're here. No movement on the perimeter. Serrano said the exchange would happen in Building 9. Adrian's voice was low but steady. Let's move. When they stepped out of the SUV, the wind from the lake carried the sharp tang of salt and rusted metal. The place smelled like abandonment, the kind of quiet that only ever came before something went wrong. Elena followed Adrian into the dark. The warehouse loomed ahead, its doors half open like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Inside, shadows stretched long across the cracked concrete floor. Flashlights cut through the dark, beams darting from corner to corner. Clear, Franco said after a moment. Nothing. Adrian frowned. Serrano swore they'd be here. Elena's instincts screamed at her. Something was wrong. She turned, and that's when she saw it. A glint of red light. A tiny blinking dot near one of the support beams. Adrian, she shouted, diving toward him. The explosion tore through the air before he could answer. A thunderous roar, a wave of fire, the world twisting into chaos. Concrete rained down. Flames licked the walls. Elena hit the ground hard, ears ringing, lungs burning from the smoke. Elena. Adrian's voice cut through the noise. She coughed, eyes stinging, and crawled toward him through the haze. He was half covered in debris but alive. She grabbed his arm and pulled with all her strength. Move. They stumbled toward the exit, the warehouse collapsing behind them. Franco's men were shouting, dragging each other out, firing back at unseen enemies in the shadows. Gunfire cracked through the smoke, short bursts of light and death. Get down. Adrian shoved her behind a metal crate, returning fire with practiced precision. 2 figures fell, silhouettes folding in the dark. Elena's mind shifted into survival mode. She reached for the gun strapped under her jacket, something Franco had given her days ago. Her hands didn't shake. When another attacker rushed through the smoke, she fired. 1 shot. Center mass. He fell. Adrian looked back at her, eyes wide, not with surprise, but something closer to realization. You've done this before, he said. Later, she snapped. We need to move. Franco's voice came over the radio again, ragged. Boss, they're everywhere. We're pulling back to the cars. Go. Adrian ordered. He grabbed Elena's hand and ran. They burst through the shattered doors into the night, bullets slicing the air around them. One of the SUVs was already burning. Another was gone. Take cover. Franco yelled, returning fire from behind a concrete barrier. Elena ducked low, dragging Adrian down with her. This was a setup, she said. I know, he growled. Serrano must have told them everything. Franco cursed. He's dead when I find him. Get us out of here, Adrian said. They sprinted toward the last SUV. Elena covered them, shooting at flashes of movement in the dark. Her pulse was steady, her aim precise. The training her parents had given her all those years ago flooded back like instinct. When they finally dove into the car, Franco slammed the door shut and hit the gas. The tires screeched, the vehicle fishtailing as bullets ricocheted off the armor. The city lights blurred past again, faster and faster. Adrian turned to her. There was blood on his temple, but his eyes burned with fury and something else, pride. You saved my life. She stared ahead. You'd have done the same. He studied her for a long moment. You're not just her sister. No, Elena said quietly. I never was. They drove in silence until the city swallowed them again. Back at the mansion, the night felt too still, too empty. Franco and the guards fanned out to check the perimeter again, but Adrian and Elena stayed inside the library. The fire burned low, throwing soft shadows across the walls. Adrian poured whiskey into 2 glasses and handed one to her. She took it without a word. He sat across from her, the glass turning slowly in his hand. That explosion wasn't meant to kill me, he said finally. It was meant to send a message. From Castrati? He nodded. He wants me to know his inside my network. That I can't trust anyone. You can trust me, Elena said quietly. Adrian's eyes lifted. Can I? She didn't look away. You already do. Silence hung between them. Then he said, the way you fought back tonight, that wasn't self-defense. You've been trained. I told you before, she said, her voice steady. Our parents weren't ordinary people. They worked in intelligence. When they died, I was 16. Isabel ran from it. I didn't. I learned everything they taught us. Adrian leaned forward, his expression unreadable. So you've been living like this, in shadows, for years? Yes. And you came back to Chicago to bury your sister. Elena met his gaze. And to kill whoever buried her for real. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, softly, you and I are the same. She almost laughed, but it came out as a sigh. No, Adrian. We're not. You chose this world. I just learned to survive in it. He stood and walked toward the window, staring out at the lake. The difference doesn't matter anymore. After tonight, We're both on Castrati's list. Elena joined him. Then we finish this before he finishes us. He turned to her, eyes dark and intent. Together. Together, she said. And for the first time since Isabel's death, something in her chest felt like resolve instead of grief. The next morning, sunlight broke through the clouds, glinting off the lake like shards of glass. The mansion, for once, seemed quiet. But beneath that calm, everything hummed with danger. Elena sat at the desk in Adrian's study, her laptop open, the journal beside her. Pages of notes covered the table. Lines, dates, coded numbers. Isabel wasn't just keeping a diary, she said, eyes on the screen. She was keeping records. Adrian stood behind her, watching over her shoulder. Of what? Money transfers. Calls. Hidden accounts. She was tracking Serrano's payments from offshore banks. But look at this, she turned the screen toward him. These numbers repeat. Every third transaction routes through the same shell company. Guess who owns it? Adrian leaned closer, frowning. Valentina. Elena nodded. Your sister. Adrian went still. That's not possible. She's been working with Castrati for months, Elena said. He needed someone inside close enough to leak your plans but untouchable enough that you wouldn't suspect them. Who better than family? Adrian's voice turned quiet, deadly. She used Isabel to get to me. Elena looked at him. We need proof before you confront her. I don't need proof. Yes, you do, she said sharply. Because if you're wrong, you'll destroy what's left of your family. And if you're right, she'll see you coming and vanish. He clenched his jaw but nodded once. Then show me. They worked side by side for hours. Adrian provided access codes, financial trails, private contacts. Elena connected the pieces, tracing each transaction until the web became clear, money flowing from Valentina's charity fund to Castrati's businesses overseas. When she finally sat back, exhaustion settled in. There. That's everything. Enough to bury her and Castrati both. Adrian didn't speak. He stared at the screen like it was a ghost. Elena studied his face, the storm behind his calm. You look like a man who's lost everything twice. He exhaled. Maybe I have. You still have a chance to end this. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers. We'll confront her tonight. Elena hesitated. If she's dangerous. She won't touch you, he said firmly. I'll make sure of it. That evening, the mansion glowed under soft golden light, but the beauty felt hollow. Adrian's sister arrived just after sunset, wearing a white coat and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. Brother, Valentina said, stepping into the grand hall. You sounded urgent. Adrian's expression was unreadable. We need to talk. She tilted her head, eyes flicking toward Elena. And the ghost of Isabel joins us, too. How charming. Elena met her gaze coldly. You can drop the act, Valentina. We know. Valentina laughed lightly, unbothered. Know what, darling? That you've been working with Castrati, Adrian said, voice low but lethal. That you sold out Isabel. And that you've been bleeding my accounts dry to fund his expansion. For the briefest second, something flickered behind Valentina's eyes. Then her smile returned, wider now. Ah. So that's what this is. Don't lie to me. She stepped closer, her heels clicking softly against the marble. And if I don't? Adrian's voice hardened. Then I'll do what I should have done a long time ago. Valentina's laughter echoed through the hall. You won't hurt me. You can't. You need me more than you admit. Elena stepped forward. He doesn't need a traitor. Valentina's gaze shifted, studying her. You really do look like her. But you're not half as soft. Maybe that's why he keeps you around. Elena didn't flinch. Maybe I'm here to finish what she started. Valentina's smile vanished. Then you'll die for it, just like she did. Before Elena could react, Valentina moved faster than expected, pulling a small pistol from her coat. Adrian lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. The gun went off, the shot shattering a vase near the stairs. Enough, he roared, twisting the weapon from her hand and sending it skidding across the floor. Guards rushed in, but Adrian raised a hand. No. Leave us. Valentina's breath came fast, her perfect hair disheveled. You wouldn't dare. He leaned close, his voice low. Try me. For a long, tense moment, no one spoke. Then Valentina smiled again, a slow, poisonous smile. You think this ends with me? Castrati already knows everything. He's coming for you, brother. For both of you. Adrian's jaw tightened. Let him. He turned to Franco. Lock her down. No visitors. No phones. No escape. As the guards dragged her away, Valentina's laughter echoed down the hall. You'll never make it out alive, she called. He's already here. Elena looked at Adrian. You believe her? He nodded once. Yes. Then we have no time to lose. Adrian's gaze hardened, the last remnants of grief burning away into something colder, purpose. Then we bring the war to him, he said. And for the first time, Elena believed he meant it. They thought they had Serrano contained. They thought they had the man who'd fed Isabel to the Albanians in cuffs and under lights in the mansion basement. They thought wrong. It started with a phone buzzing in the study at 2 a.m. Franco answered it, listened, and his face went stone. He cut off the call and left the room without a word. Adrian watched him go, watched the way his shoulders tightened, and he knew before Franco spoke. Escape, Franco said at last, standing in the doorway. Serrano's gone. The word landed like an icicle. Elena's hand tightened on the mug she'd been holding. How? Franco shrugged once, tired. Guard said he fell asleep. CCTV showed a figure slipping into the basement at 1:30. The cell door was open at 1:35. No forced entry. No alarm trigger. Serrano walked out. Adrian's face didn't show panic. It didn't show surprise either. It showed something worse, thin, coiled anger. Who else knew Serrano was here? Only the team, Franco said. Me, you, and the techs. Elena set the mug down. And Valentina. Franco's jaw tightened. Secure. Phone disconnected an hour ago. Adrian paced. The mansion seemed suddenly too loud, the clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant lapping of the lake. He can't have gone far, he said. He knows where to hide. He'll go to his men. He'll go to Castrati. Then we go to him first, Elena said. Adrian looked at her. You want to lead? She did. She had to. Anger sharpened her decisions into blades. Serrano stole something from Isabel that couldn't be returned. He had to be found. They split into teams. Franco took the men to sweep the docks and known safe houses. Elena went with the tech operator, a nervous young man named Paolo, who smelled of coffee and failure their first week on the job. Paolo set up a bank of screens and keyboards in the den and fed Elena every frame, every street camera, every traffic feed Paolo could pull. You're not wearing gloves, he said. You could contaminate evidence. I don't plan to pick anything up, Elena replied. Her tone was flat, her mind was precise. She scanned the video feeds, Serrano's last known movements stitched into a trail of blurs. They tracked the sedan that left the warehouse, the highway exit Serrano might have taken, a gas station where a man who looked like him refueled. You see him? Adrian came in behind her, leaning into the light of the screen. His shadow fell long beside hers. I do, she said. He's heading north. He went alone. Her voice was odd. There was a hunger there, the kind that comes when the prey is almost in sight. But he didn't go to Castrati. He's heading to an old safe house by the river. He's meeting someone. Adrian's hand tightened around the counter until his knuckles blanched. Which safe house? She pointed at the map. Warehouse 12. East River Pier. Franco swore under his breath when Elena called it out. We set a perimeter. We move in quiet. They moved like ghosts. The convoy cut across the city in a slice of black metal and armored glass. Elena sat in the passenger seat next to Adrian. He didn't speak, but his fingers drummed a slow rhythm on his knee. The closer they got to the river, the more Elena could feel his pulse matching her own, two predators listening to the same signal. The pier smelled like oil and old rope. Warehouse 12 stood like a rusted tooth against the grey sky. The men fanned out. Franco's hand signals were efficient and practiced. Elena moved with them, feeling the familiar cadence of plans falling into place. They breached the cargo door together. The warehouse swallowed them in a smell of salt and mildew and old machinery. Flashlights cut across empty crates. Shadows moved in the corners. They called Serrano's name. No answer. Then a muffled shout. A trapdoor slammed open at the back of the warehouse and a figure tumbled into the dock below, heavy, quick, alive, and Serrano was gone. Split. Franco ordered. They chased through steel corridors, ladders, and catwalks. Elena heard boots, the soft thud of someone who had trained for escape. For a moment, she saw Serrano's silhouette. He welded into the darkness and disappeared through a narrow exit that led toward a back alley. Elena took that exit. She ran faster than she had in months, hurdling a low fence, sliding across cold concrete, breath cutting into the air. At the alley's end, she cornered him. He was thinner than she remembered. His eyes were wide, wild with the smell of escape and the heat of guilt. "Don't come close," he hissed. He had a small pistol in his hand, the metal catching the low light. "You don't get to run," Elena said. "You don't get to run and leave her." Serrano laughed, a dry, sharp sound. "Leave her?" She stumbled into something. She chose this. His finger tightened on the trigger. "I did what I had to." "You killed her," Elena said. The sentence was simple, the accusation precise. Serrano's thumbs worked nervously along the gun's grip. "You told them where she would be." He looked at her like she'd slapped him. "No. I told them things. I told them enough. They said they wouldn't kill her. I told them you walked into my life because of him, because of DeLuca. They came to scare her. They came to teach me a lesson if I didn't cooperate. You traded her life for your family," Elena said. Her hands were steady. She did not tremble. "And now you run." Serrano's face collapsed. He had a human shape in him now, crumpled and ordinary. "I didn't mean for her to die." "You won't say that in court," Elena said. "You won't say that to Adrian." Serrano lunged. Elena stepped aside with a move that felt like reflex. She knew this body, knew the way to make the right small motion that unbalanced him. He staggered. Adrian arrived like a shadow, movement too fast for Serrano to react. The pistol clattered from Serrano's hand and skittered down the alley. Adrian shoved him to the ground. "You lied," he said, voice low and cold. "You lied to me about her." He was close enough to smell him, sweat and fear and the cheap cologne Serrano favored. Serrano's voice was broken. "They said they'd take my son, Adrian. They said." Adrian's fist landed then, once, brutal, and Serrano's head snapped back. Blood dripped from his lip. Elena, who had been inches away, felt the old soldier in her recoil at the sight, not the kill, not the violence itself, but the fact that a man could be so broken and still be dangerous. Franco's men arrived and cuffed Serrano. He swung his head and looked at Elena as if trying to find a remnant of Isabel. "She shouldn't have come here," he whispered. "She shouldn't." Elena stepped forward. Her voice was low, not shaking. She was brave. She did not deserve this. Serrano's eyes widened with a strange, animal recognition. "You're not her," he said. "But you are her shadow." Elena knelt so her face was level with his. "I'm her sister," she said. "And you will tell the truth." He mouthed words that no one else could hear, a prayer or a confession. Franco hauled him to his feet and walked him toward the SUVs. Serrano's route back to the mansion would be watched. No more slipping away. No more escape. But as Serrano was driven away, Elena watched the city across the river and tasted the metallic tang of fear like a promise. If Serrano had told Castrati anything about Isabel or about her, the danger had widened. Someone now knew her name. Someone could use that. Adrian put a hand on the small of her back and guided her away from the dock. The gesture was not tender. It was ownership, protection, and a warning all at once. "You didn't tell me you wanted him dead," he said quietly. "I never said dead," she replied. "I said truth." He stared at her a long moment, then gave a short, humorless laugh. "You're impossible. And you love it," she said. He almost smiled, and for a sliver of time the world did not feel like it would end. Then Serrano's words thudded at the edge of her mind, threats to his family, deals cut in the dark. Her hands ached for more pieces of the puzzle. They returned to the mansion with Serrano in custody and their options narrowed. The line between justice and vengeance had been crossed, widened, and shifted. Elena slept for a few hours, and during that time she dreamed of Isabel smiling at her from an old photograph and then turning into water and slipping through her fingers. When she woke, Adrian was at her door. He did not come inside. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I didn't have to be alive to care," he said. His voice was flat. "But I am." She leaned into the frame and let the moment stretch. They had a war to fight, and now there was a mole, and now Serrano would sing sooner or later. The danger had expanded like a bruise. "Find Castrati fast," she said. "Before he finds us." He nodded. "Tomorrow, we hit where it hurts." She believed him. She also knew the truth. There were more layers yet. The mole was not just Serrano. The mole was the system, the friends who lined up with money over honor, the police who took phone calls from the wrong people. And in that system, shadows moved with ease. Elena met Adrian's gaze. "If we break this, we end more than one war. We'll burn the maps," he said. "Then we'll build new ones." They walked away, hands close but not touching, both of them braced for the storm they knew was coming. The truth rarely arrives neat. It comes in fragments, an overlooked ledger, a stray voicemail, the wrong name left on an envelope. Elena had learned to treat truth like glass, handle it carefully, because it will cut you if you rush. She and Paolo worked the traces Serrano had left. Serrano wanted to trade his life for his son's. That meant paper trails, coded bank transfers, shell companies, and offshore accounts. Serrano's confessions had opened doors. Elena intended to walk through each one. Late morning, she sat at the desk with coffee gone cold beside her. The room smelled of paper and the kind of dust that feels like long winters. Paolo fed her encrypted files, call logs, account numbers, shadows of a network. He watched her with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. "You're ruthless," he said. "Focused," she corrected. Her screen filled with names. A string of transfers led to an account registered to a charity that belonged to Valentina. That account funneled funds through a web of closeted accounts that ended in Montenegro, then Bulgaria, a smear of electronic footprints. Elena's fingers flew, cross-referencing, running IP addresses, following the server pings until she hit a dead end. "Firewalls," Paolo said. "They're clean." "No, they're dirty," Elena said. She smiled a little. "They left a breadcrumb. You think they slipped up? They always do. Pride makes people sloppy." She found the breadcrumb in an unexpected place, a private photo uploaded to a temporary storage account, then quickly removed. The EXIF data, a small metadata tag embedded in the image, held a timestamp and a GPS coordinate. Someone had uploaded that photo from a phone in tucked-away dockside cafe, the exact cafe Serrano was seen entering 3 days ago. The coordinate pinged to a small apartment block in a part of town Castrati favored. Elena copied the coordinates, then cross-checked the phone towers for that hour. One tower logged a call to a burner number. The line went through a relay in the city's older systems, the kind of relay the police sometimes use to cut through modern encryption. She called Adrian. He arrived in a half hour, suitless, rough around the edges, eyes like a man with a plan. He listened as Elena walked him through the breadcrumb. "This is good," he said. "This gets us closer." "It gets us a lead," she corrected. "It gets us an address to stake out. It doesn't get us Castrati. Not yet." "They'll be watching the watchman," Adrian said. "When you feed the system feeds you back trouble." She knew that. They were already on someone's radar. Valentina's outburst at the mansion had been an indicator, not an anomaly. The mole in their ranks had friends in every office, judges who blinked at the right moment, cops who took vacations at the wrong time, men who answered calls from the other side and smiled. "So we go tonight," Adrian said. "Quiet. No cameras. I want a small team. Franco, you, me, and Elena." She felt the heat in his voice. "I'm not going inside. You will be monitoring from the safe car," Adrian said. She almost refused. Then she remembered Serrano's eyes and the sound of his laugh when he tried to justify his choices. She remembered Isabel's handwriting worn thin in a notebook. She remembered Adrian in the study, being human and fragile and the kind of man people followed because he was dangerous in a careful way. "Fine," she said. "But we do it my way. No heroics." Adrian's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Paolo smiled like a child at the promise of a secret. "I'll run over watch," he said. "You'll have feeds. You'll have me." They parked 2 blocks down from the apartment Elena's breadcrumb had led them to. The building was a concrete box with a cafeteria on the ground floor. It did not shout wealth. It shouted utility. A man in a cheap suit left through the side door. A woman tucked a scarf around her face and entered. Elena watched from the car. Paolo's feed stacked on the screen, exterior cams, interior pass-throughs, a video feed from a cafe across the street. A figure left the apartment at 9:12 p.m. and descended the stairs. He moved fast, slipping into an unmarked van. Adrian cursed under his breath. "That's our window." Franco nodded, sliding out of the car like a silent cat. "We move." They took the stairs 2 at a time. Elena kept to the shadows, counting steps by the echo of their boots. The apartment door clicked open. Inside, a dim light and a table with an ashtray. The flat smelled of nicotine and lemon cleaner. Adrian signaled, and Franco went left while Adrian took right. Elena stayed by the door, watching for anything that might give the game away. Then she saw it, a laptop open on the table, a spreadsheet half-filled with dates and contact names. On the screen, an email draft waiting to be sent. The subject line read, "Victor. Confirm. Tonight." Her hand went cold. Castrati's name on a piece of live evidence. She moved to the keyboard, fingers hovering. Paolo whispered in her earpiece, "Don't touch anything." She hesitated, then typed a single command to copy the file to a secure drive. The laptop pinged. Somewhere in the building, a light flicked on. Footsteps above. They had been compromised. "Move." Adrian barked. They scrambled. Franco grabbed the drive she'd made, and together they raced to the stairwell. On the landing, a figure waited, broad, dark, a silhouette that filled the space. A shot cracked, and a bullet grazed Adrian's shoulder. The figure was not Castrati, it was a courier, a man with a hunger for survival. They returned fire. For a second, time slowed. Elena felt the recoil through the stairwell and tasted iron at the back of her mouth. She had not fired in close quarters before, she had hidden that part from herself. The sound was animal. They pushed through the door and into the alley. The van that had left earlier was back, engine idling. Men climbed in. They retreated into the night. They made it to the car. Paolo swore softly and handed Adrian the drive. "We have proof he's working with Valentina and a courier link straight to Castrati," he said. Adrian's jaw locked. "This is everything." "Not everything," Elena said. "It's a piece. Enough to start a hunt." They drove back to the mansion in the early hours. The world felt thinner somehow, like a glass panel that might shatter at a wrong word. Elena sat in the back, the drive warm in her lap. She watched the city bleed past and thought about how easily systems bent for those with the right money, the right threats. Back at the mansion, Adrian shut the study door and stood alone for a moment. He held the drive like a relic. "You did well," he said to her finally. "You did, too," she replied. He turned. "Do you trust me?" Her breath hitched. Trust was a dangerous thing to place in a man whose hands had killed for him. But she had also seen him kneel at a grave, seen the way regret carved his face. She saw a man who would burn his own world to make it right. "I do," she said, and for once, it was not a bargain. It was not armor. It was a small, fragile thing. He moved close and, without asking, kissed her, a quick press, not the storm from before. It was an acknowledgement, it was a promise, it was the shape of plans they would share. On the drive, Paolo set up live feeds to monitor Valentina's accounts. They watched as money moved, slow and careful, like a stream feeding a river. There were other players, shell companies in Eastern Europe, a string of low-level men who shuffled money between wallets. They were not alone in this plan. The system had accomplices. They also realized something worse. Detective Vega, the cop who had been seen arguing with Serrano at a bar months ago, had been oddly absent from official channels. He had answered a call an hour before Serrano's escape. His badge number kept surfacing in logs tied to the courier's phone. The system reached into the law. Elena did not blink. "Vega is dirty," she said. Adrian's mouth became a hard line. "Then we take him as well." They had proof to take: a drive, an email draft, a courier's testimony. It was enough to start peeling the onion. It was also enough to make the enemy move faster. Outside, the lake lay black and patient. Inside, cables hummed and screens glowed. They had found a way into the system. Now the system knew they had found it. Elena stood, walked to the window and looked at her own reflection in the glass, at the woman with Isabel's eyes and a different mouth. Under the lights, she looked like revenge and mercy braided together. She had seen the mole. She had found a ghost in the system. Now they had to decide whether to rip the system out root and all, and whether that would make them monsters too. Adrian came to stand behind her. He didn't touch. He only breathed. "Tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow," she agreed. They both went to bed for the first time in days without sleep on their faces. The evidence was there. The plan was beginning. The enemy had begun to move. And somewhere in the dark circuits and offshore accounts and couriers' cell phones, Victor Castrati sat and thought he was safe. He wasn't. Not anymore. Morning crept in through rain-streaked windows, turning the lake outside the De Luca mansion the color of gunmetal. Adrian stood at the window, his shoulder bandaged, his reflection split by thin lines of water. Behind him, Elena worked over the data Paolo had decrypted overnight. The drives recovered from the courier had yielded something unexpected: a recording. Paolo pressed play. A grainy voice filled the study. "We have the sister now. The boss says hold her until payment clears." "Which sister?" "Volkov." "Doesn't matter which, they look the same." Elena froze. The audio was dated 3 days before Isabel's crash. Adrian turned slowly, every muscle in his body going still. "That's proof." "It's also a death warrant," Elena said. Castrati ordered the pickup before the accident. Isabel must have realized what they planned, tried to run. Paolo looked from one to the other. "Whoever recorded that was inside Castrati's circle. If we can find him, we can bring the whole operation down." Adrian's gaze locked on Elena. "Then we start with Vega." The detective was the last thread between law and the streets, a man who had drifted between sides too long. That evening they found him at a dive bar on the west side, the kind of place where loyalty went to die. Vega sat alone in a booth, nursing cheap whiskey, his badge glinting in the dim light. Adrian slid into the seat across from him. Elena stayed standing, watching. "Detective," Adrian said. "We need to talk." Vega didn't look surprised. "You always need to talk when you've already decided what to do." Adrian leaned forward. "You worked Serrano's file. You handled Isabel's case. Tell me why her name's in Castrati's ledger." Vega's hand twitched around his glass. "Because she called me. Said she had evidence. Said she was scared." "What did you do?" Elena demanded. "I met her," Vega said. "She gave me a flash drive, said it proved Valentina's accounts were fake. I took it to internal. Next morning, it was gone. The day after that, she was dead." Silence pooled between them. "Who else knew?" Adrian asked. "Everyone who mattered," Vega said. "Castrati's got people in every precinct. You think you're the only one bleeding from this war? We're all owned." Elena stepped closer. "You let them take her." Vega's eyes met hers. "I tried to save her. You think I could fight them? I'm still alive because I kept quiet." Adrian's tone turned soft, lethal. "You'll help us now." Vega laughed bitterly. "And when Castrati's men find my body, who buries me?" "I will," Adrian said. "If you're lucky." Vega looked at Elena again, and something in her expression, grief hardened into purpose, made him nod. "All right," he said. "But when this burns, don't pretend you weren't warned." They left with a list of names and the address of Castrati's primary broker, Lucien Mocchetti, an accountant who laundered both money and secrets. Back at the mansion, Elena spread Vega's files across the table. Adrian joined her, the distance between them shrinking with every piece of evidence they uncovered. At last he said quietly, "There's something I never told you." She looked up. "What?" "The night before Isabel died, she called me. She said she'd found something in Valentina's office, ledgers, bank codes. She said she was going to the police." His voice broke once. "I told her not to. I told her I'd handle it. And she said she couldn't trust me anymore." Elena's throat tightened. "That's what you've been hiding." He nodded. "I failed her." Elena reached across the table and took his hand. "Then don't fail her now." The words landed like a vow. Outside, thunder grumbled again, rolling in from the lake. They both knew the storm hadn't passed, it was circling closer. By midnight, they were on the road again. Franco drove, Adrian checked his pistol with the calm of habit. Elena sat in the back seat beside Paolo, scrolling through Vega's coordinates. The final location, where Castrati's next shipment and Lucien Mocchetti were due to meet, was an abandoned textile warehouse near the industrial docks. "This is it," Elena said. "If we hit it right, we get the man who paid for Isabel's death." Franco adjusted the mirror. "And if we hit it wrong? Then we die," Adrian said simply. They parked 2 blocks away. Rain slicked the streets, reflecting the orange of dock lamps. From their vantage point they could see a row of trucks backed up to the warehouse loading bay. Men moved crates under tarps while others smoked by the doors. Adrian gave quiet orders. "No gunfire unless I say. We want Mocchetti alive." Elena followed him through a side entrance, heart hammering but movements controlled. Inside, the air was damp with oil and mildew. Shadows twisted among the machinery. They reached the office overlooking the floor. Through the cracked glass, they saw Mocchetti, slender, nervous, counting cash while speaking into a phone. The other half of the call came through on Adrian's earpiece, Castrati himself. "Make sure the truck leaves before dawn," Castrati said. "And tell De Luca his ghosts don't scare me." Adrian's jaw set. He raised his hand, signaling the team forward. Then everything happened at once. A light flared outside. Tires screeched. Gunfire erupted from the street. Franco's voice barked through the radio. "Ambush. We're surrounded." Mocchetti dropped the phone and reached for a weapon. Adrian kicked the office door open and fired a warning shot. "Down," he roared. Chaos filled the building. Castrati's men poured in from the loading bays. Elena ducked behind a desk, firing back with quick precision. Paolo yanked her down as a bullet shattered the window behind them. "We have to move," he shouted. Adrian dragged Mocchetti across the floor. "Call your boss," he snarled. "Tell him it's over." Mocchetti shook, eyes wild. "He'll kill me." Adrian slammed him against the wall. "You should worry about me first." Elena grabbed the phone that had fallen from the desk. The line was still open. Castrati's voice hissed through the static. "De Luca. I warned you not to dig. You bring her into this, she'll end like the other one." Elena lifted the phone. "You'll never touch me. You sound like her," Castrati said. "You'll die like her." The line went dead. Outside, sirens wailed, police or decoys, no one could tell. Franco burst in, bleeding from a graze on his arm. "We have to go. Now." They fought their way out through the side corridor. Smoke filled the air from a burning truck. Elena coughed, firing at silhouettes that emerged from the haze. Adrian covered her flank, every shot deliberate. When they reached the SUV, Franco gunned the engine, ramming through a blockade of crates. Bullets punched into the metal. Glass shattered. Elena felt a sting across her shoulder, shallow, but real. Adrian pulled her down, pressing his hand against the wound. "Stay with me," he said. "You're fine." "I've had worse," she muttered, breath shaking. They broke free of the docks and sped toward the highway. The rearview mirror showed fire blooming behind them. Rain began again, washing smoke and blood from the windshield. Adrian leaned back, breathing hard. "Mocchetti?" "In the trunk," Franco said grimly. "Alive, for now." Elena pressed a hand over her shoulder, eyes burning from the smoke. Castrati knows about me, she said. He wanted me to hear that call. Adrian's gaze met hers. Then his already making mistakes. They reached the mansion just before dawn. Franco locked Mocchetti in the wine cellar, chaining him to a post. Adrian ordered the guards doubled and the perimeter sealed. When the adrenaline finally faded, Elena found herself shaking not from fear, but from what they'd become. She met Adrian in the hall. We can't keep reacting. He'll always be one step ahead. Then we take the step he doesn't expect, Adrian said. What's that? He looked out toward the dark lake. We go to him. End it on his ground. Elena stared at him, the enormity of it sinking in. You're planning war. I'm planning closure, he said quietly. For her. For us. For a long moment neither spoke. Then she said, then we'll need more than bullets. We'll need truth. Adrian nodded. Tomorrow, we make him choke on it. The mansion fell silent again as dawn broke. The first light spilled across the floor, touching the blood on Elena's sleeve, the exhaustion on Adrian's face. The war they'd been dragged into was no longer a question of vengeance, it had become a reckoning. They had proof, a prisoner, and a common enemy. But as Elena watched the lake shimmer in the new light, she knew Castrati wasn't the only ghost waiting for them. Some of them lived right here, behind her own reflection. The mansion no longer felt like a fortress. It felt like a trap. Guards patrolled the halls, their boots echoing across marble floors. The air was thick with smoke from burning wood in the fireplaces, though no one felt its warmth. The city outside was quiet, but inside, it was only the calm before another storm. Adrian stood in the study, staring at the table where they'd spread every document and map they owned. Photos of Valentina, Serrano, Castrati, all of it connected by red strings and scribbled notes. A map of the docks lay at the center, marked with circles and arrows. Elena entered quietly, the soft click of her boots breaking the silence. She wore black again, simple, efficient, ready for anything. Franco doubled the guards, she said. No movement on the outer gates. But the city's buzzing. Someone's leaking information. Adrian didn't look up. I know who. Valentina. She has men loyal to her even now. The De Luca name still means something in this city. To some, it means fear. To others, money. Elena moved closer to the table. You think she'll try to make a deal? She already has. Adrian finally turned to her. His eyes were darker than she'd ever seen. Vega's intel says she's been in contact with Castrati's lieutenant, Renzo Bruni. She's offering access routes, accounts, even names in exchange for protection. Elena folded her arms. She's turning against her own blood. She's always wanted power more than loyalty. The fire popped behind them, throwing light across Adrian's face. Tonight, he said, I end this. I go to her myself. Elena frowned. That's exactly what she wants. She knows you'll come for her. Good, he said. Then she won't see you coming. Later, the night swallowed the lake in fog. Franco drove them through narrow streets toward an estate on the outskirts of the city, Valentina's. The gates were open. Lights burned inside the mansion, golden and soft, like a trap wrapped in silk. Adrian and Elena stepped out, weapons holstered, but the tension in the air was a live current. Inside, Valentina waited at the top of the staircase, dressed in white like a spectre. She smiled as they entered, though her eyes were sharp as blades. Brother, she said sweetly. You never did like knocking. Locks never stopped me, Adrian replied. Valentina's gaze flicked to Elena. And you brought her. The ghost again. I was beginning to think you'd fallen for your fiancé's shadow. Elena's expression didn't waver. You should worry less about ghosts, Valentina. They have a way of finding the living. Valentina's smile froze. Still playing detective, I see. How charming. Adrian cut her off. No games. You've been feeding Castrati information. I want to know what you gave him. Valentina sighed, as if bored. Everything he needed. You've been predictable for years, Adrian. Always thinking loyalty means control. You betrayed your family. She laughed softly. You think family means anything in this world. You kill for money. I sell it for survival. We're the same. Elena took a step forward. You sold your brother's soul. You killed Isabel. Valentina's eyes snapped to her. She was never meant to die. Castrati promised he'd keep her alive if I delivered the files. I didn't pull the trigger. But you loaded the gun, Adrian said. For the first time, Valentina's mask cracked. You think you're better than me? You built your empire with blood. You chose power over peace every time. Don't you dare judge me for learning from you. The room filled with a heavy silence. Finally, Adrian said quietly, You're right. Valentina blinked. He stepped forward, voice steady but cold. I made this family a kingdom of smoke and fear. But you turned it into a weapon against its own blood. She laughed again, though it trembled this time. So what now? You'll shoot me? The last piece of your family? He reached for his gun, then stopped. No, he said. I'll let her see what you really are. Elena raised her phone. On the screen played the recording Paolo had decrypted, Valentina's voice, promising Castrati the De Luca estate, the bank routes, and the names of every ally still loyal to her brother. Valentina's eyes widened. How did you? It's over, Elena said. You've already destroyed yourself. Guards burst through the doors then, but they weren't De Luca men, they were Castrati's. Gunfire split the night. Adrian shoved Elena behind a column, returning fire. Franco's men poured in from the back, the hall erupting into chaos. Valentina ran. Elena! Adrian shouted, chasing after her. Elena followed, weaving through the smoke and echoes of gunfire. She found Valentina in the side garden, the moon catching on the gun in her hand. Stay back. Valentina screamed. I didn't want this. You wanted power, Elena said, walking closer. Now you have it. Look around you. Valentina's eyes darted between them. You don't understand, Castrati's already coming. He's bigger than both of you. You can't stop him. Then you'll die with him, Adrian said. Valentina's hand shook. Adrian, please. The shot came from somewhere else, a single crack that echoed through the night. Valentina dropped to her knees, shock in her eyes. The blood spread fast across her dress, blooming like a red rose. Elena turned toward the trees, just in time to see a figure vanish into the dark. Sniper! Franco shouted from behind them. Adrian knelt beside his sister, catching her before she fell. Who sent him? He demanded. Valentina's breath rattled. He's coming for her. Her eyes rolled back, and she was gone. Elena stood frozen. She should have felt anger, satisfaction, justice, but what filled her chest was something colder. Castrati hadn't just come for revenge. He was after her now. Back at the mansion, the storm broke over the city. Thunder shook the windows, lightning flashing across the lake. Elena sat by the fire, a blanket around her shoulders, staring at her hands. They were steady, too steady. Adrian entered quietly, blood on his sleeve, face pale but unbroken. She's gone, he said simply. Elena nodded. She chose it. She chose survival, he said bitterly. She just ran out of time. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed one to her. Castrati won't stop now. He'll come for me. And when he can't find me, he'll find you. Elena met his eyes. Then we stop running. He gave a faint smile. You always say that like it's easy. It's not supposed to be easy, she said softly. It's supposed to be worth it. For the first time that night, Adrian let the silence stretch between them. The fire cracked, thunder rolled, and for a brief moment, the world felt still. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowning. It's Vega. He answered, putting it on speaker. Talk. You need to leave now, Vega said, his voice urgent. Castrati's people are moving. They know where you are. You've got maybe an hour before he hits you. Elena stood. Then it's time. Adrian looked at her. Time for what? To end this, she said. Before he reaches the door. The storm had barely lifted when they set their plan in motion. Paolo rerouted the security feeds, masking their departure as a blackout. Franco assembled a skeleton team, men who would follow Adrian into hell itself. Castrati was coming, and Adrian intended to meet him halfway. Elena insisted on going. He wants me. If I'm bait, we use that. Adrian hesitated. You think I'll risk you again? It's not risk, she said. It's strategy. Her voice left no room for argument. They drove through the storm toward the industrial outskirts, where Castrati's base of operations stood, an old shipyard filled with steel containers and cranes frozen mid-motion. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating rows of trucks and men with rifles. Adrian parked behind a stack of cargo crates. We move on my word. Elena adjusted her earpiece. Vega's men are 2 blocks out. If he's not lying, we'll have backup. If he is, Adrian said, we finish it ourselves. They slipped into the yard like shadows. Rain drummed against metal. Voices echoed through the maze of containers. Then Elena saw him, Victor Castrati, standing under a floodlight. He was older than she expected, his suit immaculate despite the rain, his eyes pale and sharp. I was beginning to think you'd lost your nerve, he called. Adrian DeLuca, bringing ghosts to my doorstep. Adrian stepped forward. You should have stayed in Albania. Castrati smiled thinly. And miss all this? No, no. I wanted to see the woman who looks just like the one I killed. Elena's blood ran cold. She begged, you know, Castrati continued, voice calm as thunder rolled. Your sister said she could make a deal. But I don't deal in mercy. Then deal in pain, Adrian said, raising his gun. Gunfire exploded before the words finished leaving his mouth. The yard lit up in chaos, bullets sparking off metal, shouts cutting through the storm. Franco's team returned fire, forcing Castrati's men to scatter. Elena ducked behind a container, heart pounding. She saw Castrati retreat toward a warehouse at the far end of the yard. I have him, she shouted into her earpiece. Elena, wait, Adrian's voice crackled. Too late. She ran. Inside the warehouse, the noise faded. Only the hum of the storm outside remained. Castrati stood near a table, reloading calmly. Brave, he said without turning. Your sister tried to be brave too. She was, Elena said. You just mistook compassion for weakness. He laughed. You're nothing like her. You have your father's eyes, cold and angry. Then you know how this ends. They circled each other, predator and prey in reverse. Castrati aimed first. The gun clicked empty. He pressed a button on the table, a detonator. Elena froze. A timer flashed on a nearby screen, 2 o'clock. Adrian lunged, slamming Castrati against the wall. Where's the trigger? Castrati laughed. Under your house. Beneath your perfect lake. Adrian's eyes went wide. Elena ran to the panel, pulling at the wires. Paolo's voice crackled in her ear. You have 90 seconds. Cut the blue, no, red, wait. The timer ticked down. 0:45, 0:30. She ripped the blue wire. The screen went black. Silence. Then Adrian exhaled, lowering his gun. Castrati slumped to the floor, bleeding but alive. Elena looked at the timer again, heart still hammering. It's done. Adrian knelt beside Castrati. You should have stayed in the shadows. Castrati sneered. You can kill me. But the world you built. It's already burning. Adrian looked at Elena. Leave. She hesitated. Adrian. Go. His tone left no space for argument. She turned and ran, the storm outside swallowing her footsteps. Behind her, a single shot echoed through the night. When she looked back, the warehouse was burning. Hours later, as dawn broke, Elena stood by the lake outside the DeLuca mansion. The sky was soft pink, the water calm again. Adrian approached quietly, exhaustion written into every line of his face. It's over, he said. She nodded. For now. He stood beside her, staring at the horizon. You still want to leave? Elena looked at him. Do you? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his coat and handed her a small flash drive. Isabel's recordings. The real ones. She wanted them released if anything happened to her. Elena took it, her fingers brushing his. And what do you want me to do with it? Decide, he said. Truth or peace. You can't have both. The sun broke through the clouds then, glinting on the water like shards of glass. Elena slipped the drive into her pocket. Then maybe I'll choose neither. They stood in silence as the wind rose off the lake, carrying the smoke of everything they'd burned behind them. Smoke from the burnt-out shipyard clung to the air long after the fire crews left. The city's skyline looked smudged, as if someone had dragged an inky thumb across it. Elena hadn't slept. Every sound outside made her body tense, every flicker of light looked like the start of another ambush. Inside the mansion, the air was heavy with quiet. Adrian's men moved like ghosts through the halls, gathering the last of the documents, weapons, and money. They were dismantling everything, every piece of the empire that had once been a symbol of control. Adrian stood in the dining room, sleeves rolled up, a map spread in front of him. Franco will take the men and disappear for a while, he said. New identities. New routes. The De Luca name is finished. Elena crossed her arms. And you? I stay behind, he said. Tie up what's left. You mean bury it? He looked up at her then, eyes rimmed with exhaustion, but steady. If I have to. She shook her head. You can't fight ghosts, Adrian. You can only walk away from them. He gave a faint smile. You sound like her. She learned it from me. They stared at each other for a long moment, the silence between them carrying more than any words. Outside, thunder rolled over the lake again, distant but deep. Then Franco came running in, breathless. Boss, we've got a problem. Adrian's tone changed instantly. What kind? Vega, Franco said. They arrested him. He's in federal custody downtown. They're saying he's part of the bombing at the shipyard. Elena frowned. They're framing him? Franco nodded. And if he talks, he takes you both down with him. Adrian's jaw tightened. They won't get the chance. Elena stepped forward. You can't just storm a federal building. Watch me. She caught his arm. No. You'll walk right into their hands. Castrati's gone, but whoever's left in his network will be watching the police. You'll die before you make it through the door. He stared at her. Then what do you suggest? She hesitated. Let me do it. Adrian blinked. You. I'm not on any radar, she said. They don't know my face yet. Vega helped me. I owe him. Franco started to protest, but Adrian lifted a hand. She's right. They won't see her coming. He looked at Elena. But you don't go in alone. The rain came down in sheets as Elena walked through the grey courtyard of the Federal Holding Center, her ID badge clipped to her jacket, forged, flawless. She'd memorized the floor plan from Vega's files, and her steps were steady, deliberate. Inside, the air smelled of metal and bleach. Guards watched her pass, barely glancing at her credentials. The name on her badge read Marina Doyle, Federal Auditor. When she reached the holding corridor, she found Vega sitting behind the glass partition, bruised, tired, but alive. He blinked when he saw her. You've got to be kidding me. Good to see you too, she said, lowering her voice. They're framing you. He gave a short, bitter laugh. No kidding. You shouldn't be here, Elena. They know everything now. Then help me stop them. He leaned forward. They're not after Adrian anymore. They're after you. Castrati's files listed a fallback plan, something called Project Glass. You're part of it. Her stomach knotted. What does that mean? Insurance, Vega said. The twins. The intelligence training your family had, Castrati wanted it. He had plans to sell what your parents built to the highest bidder. Isabel found out. That's why she died. Elena's pulse quickened. Who has the files now? Vega looked over his shoulder, lowering his voice even more. An agent named Harris. Dirty. Works with whoever pays. He's the one who brought me in. You need to move fast. Before she could ask more, an alarm blared through the building. Red lights flashed along the ceiling. Vega's eyes widened. They're here. Elena, Adrian's voice crackled in her earpiece. Get out. Now. She spun toward the door, but armed men were already flooding the corridor. They weren't wearing federal uniforms, they were Castrati's mercenaries, still working without their master. Adrian's voice again, calm and cold, stay low. I'm 2 minutes out. He shouldn't have come, but she couldn't stop him now. The hallway filled with gunfire. Elena ducked behind a desk, returning fire through the smoke. Vega dove for cover behind the glass, shouting, "Go. They want you, not me. I'm not leaving you," she shouted back. Then a familiar figure stepped through the haze, Harris. He smiled like a man meeting an old friend. "Miss Volkov," he said. "You're harder to kill than your sister." Her blood turned to ice. "You worked for castrati," she said. "I work for whoever pays," he replied. "And now, someone else wants you." He aimed. The bullet never reached her. Adrian appeared from behind him, silent and deadly, disarming Harris with one strike. They crashed to the floor, fighting in close quarters. Adrian pinned him with one arm and pressed the gun to his throat. "Who wants her?" Adrian demanded. Harris coughed, smirking even with the weapon against his skin. "You think she's the only one left? Her parents weren't the only ones to train ghosts." Adrian's finger twitched on the trigger. "Stop," Elena said sharply. "We need him alive. He's a snake. Then let him lead us to the nest." Adrian hesitated, then holstered the gun. "Franco," he said into his radio, "we're leaving." They pulled Vega out with them, using the chaos as cover. By the time they reached the car, sirens were echoing through the city. Elena slumped in the back seat, adrenaline draining from her. "He said someone else wants me." Adrian stared ahead, rain streaking down the windshield. "Then we find out who. And we end it." That night, the mansion was quiet again, but none of them slept. Vega worked from a laptop in the corner, tracing Harris's communications. Franco cleaned the weapons. Elena and Adrian stood by the fireplace, watching the flames move. "He said something about your parents," Adrian said. Elena nodded slowly. "They worked in counterintelligence before they vanished. Castrati must have gotten to them somehow. But if what Vega said is true, there's more to it." "What do you mean?" She turned to him. "I think they're still alive." Adrian blinked. "That's impossible." "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe Castrati kept them hidden. Maybe Isabel found something she shouldn't have." Adrian exhaled. "Then we find them." Elena's voice trembled, just barely. "If they are alive, and they're part of this." He reached out, taking her hand. "Then we face it together." For a moment, she let herself believe him. The firelight reflected in his eyes, softening the hard lines of a man who had lost too much. But outside, unseen through the rain, another car waited across the lake road. Inside, a figure watched through binoculars, the faint glow of a phone lighting his face. "Target confirmed," he said quietly. "Proceed." The first explosion came just before dawn. Elena woke to the sound of shattering glass and alarms screaming through the mansion. She grabbed her gun and bolted for the door. "Adrian," she shouted. Smoke filled the corridor. 2 guards ran past, shouting orders. "Breach on the west wing, multiple hostiles." Adrian appeared from the stairwell, blood on his temple, a pistol in each hand. "They're inside." She ran to him, covering his flank as more gunfire echoed from the foyer. "Who are they?" "Castrati's replacements," he said. "Private contractors. Harris's men." They fought their way through the halls, short, sharp bursts of fire and movement. Franco was shouting orders over the comms, but his voice was breaking with static. Then came the sound that froze her blood, Vega screaming over the radio. "They've got the drive. They're taking the files." "Where?" Adrian demanded. "The study." Vega coughed. "There." The line went dead. Elena sprinted toward the study, her boots sliding on broken glass. She burst through the door and stopped cold. Vega lay on the floor, bleeding, a gun clutched in his hand. Across from him stood Harris, smiling like the devil. "You just don't quit, do you?" Harris said. "You first," she hissed, firing. He ducked behind the desk, returning fire. The bullets tore through books and shattered the glass cabinets. Adrian stormed in, taking cover beside her. "His mine," he growled. Elena nodded once. "Go." Adrian moved fast, low, silent, precise. He caught Harris before he could reload, slamming him against the wall. This ends now, Adrian said. Harris smiled, blood at the corner of his mouth. You think killing me fixes any of this? The files are already out. They'll come for her no matter what. Adrian didn't blink. Then I'll be waiting. The gunshot was quick. Final. Elena exhaled slowly. The mansion shook again, another explosion, closer this time. Franco's voice came through the earpiece. We can't hold them. They're burning the place down. Evacuate, Adrian ordered. Get everyone out. They ran through the corridors, the walls glowing orange from the flames. When they reached the front doors, the sight outside stopped them both, black SUVs, soldiers in tactical gear, lights flashing. Not mercenaries this time. Government agents. Elena turned to Adrian. They've come for you. He shook his head. No. They've come for us. Franco ran up, coughing through the smoke. Back exits clear. They sprinted toward the rear courtyard. The garden was burning, embers floating through the air like dying stars. Elena, Adrian said, grabbing her hand. Listen to me. If we get separated. We won't. He pulled her close, eyes locking with hers. Promise me. Before she could answer, a bullet struck the ground beside them. They dove for cover as agents flooded the yard. Adrian DeLuca, a voice shouted through a megaphone. Drop your weapons. You're under arrest. Adrian fired back once, keeping their heads down. They'll kill us either way. Then we make them work for it, she shouted. They dashed toward the gates, but more agents cut them off. Franco went down behind them, shouting for them to run. Elena, Adrian yelled, grabbing her arm. Go. I'm not leaving you. He turned, eyes fierce. You are. That's an order. She hesitated, heart pounding. Adrian. He pushed her toward the trees. Find the truth. Finish what we started. The agents closed in. Gunfire roared again, and she was forced to turn and run, the smoke and flames swallowing him behind her. She didn't look back. When she finally stopped running, the mansion was only a glow on the horizon. Sirens wailed in the distance. The wind off the lake carried the faint taste of ash. Elena collapsed beside the road, every muscle trembling. She pulled the flash drive from her pocket, the one Adrian had given her. It was all that was left now. She stared at it for a long time, the dawn rising slow and blood-red over the water. Somewhere out there, Adrian was either dead or captured. The empire they'd built from grief and vengeance was gone. But the truth still lived in her hands. She wiped the soot from her face, straightened, and started walking. The story wasn't over yet. By the time Elena reached the edge of the old highway, the mansion behind her was a smear of smoke against a grey sky. Sirens still wailed, faint but steady, and every sound seemed to echo off the wet asphalt. She didn't stop walking until the woods swallowed the road and the world went quiet except for the rain. She found an abandoned service shed near the train tracks. The roof leaked, and the floor smelled of rust and oil, but it was shelter. She sat down against the wall and finally let herself breathe. The flash drive felt like a pulse in her pocket, the last heartbeat of a fallen empire. She closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she saw Isabel clearly, laughing on the balcony of their childhood home, hair whipping in the wind. She could almost hear her voice. You can't fix everything, Lena. Sometimes you have to burn it down and start over. Elena whispered into the dark, I did. I burned everything. Her phone buzzed suddenly. She almost dropped it. The screen lit up with an encrypted number, Vega's code. She answered in a whisper. Where are you? I'm alive, Vega said. His voice was rough, thin. I'm out. I don't know how long. What about Adrian? She asked. A pause. No confirmation. They're saying he's dead. But no body. Elena's breath caught. You think they took him? I think they needed him alive, Vega said. Listen, I've been digging. The files on that drive aren't just about castrati. They go higher. Government contractors, private labs, international brokers. Your parents' old network. My parents. Her voice went sharp. You're saying they were part of this? They built it, Vega said. Castrati just inherited it. Project Glass was their creation. A system that turned people into information, a ghost network that erased and rewrote identities. You and Isabel were meant to be the final phase. Elena gripped the phone. That's impossible. Then look at the drive, Vega said. You'll see their names. The call ended. She sat there, staring at the cracked screen until the rain stopped. Then she pulled the laptop from her bag, plugged in the flash drive, and waited. The files opened like doors she'd never known existed. Old photos. Military reports. Field tests. And finally, 2 names on a final page. Dr. Mikhail Volkov. Dr. Anna Volkov. Status: alive. Location: unknown. Her chest tightened. The world tilted a little. All those years of thinking they were gone, all the funerals with empty coffins, and now this. If they were alive, it meant something worse. Isabel had died because she'd found them. She closed the laptop slowly. The rain had stopped. The tracks outside gleamed silver in the pale dawn light. She stood, wiping the mud from her hands. Then I find them, she whispered. And I end it. 2 days later, Elena crossed into the next city under a new name. She kept her hood up and her head down, moving through bus stations and train depots, each face around her a possible threat. Every headline on the morning papers screamed about the downfall of the DeLuca syndicate. Adrian was listed among the dead. His picture, grainy, stark, looked like a ghost. She folded the paper away without reading further. At a small cafe near the river, she opened her laptop again. One of the files on the drive contained a string of coordinates and a name, Facility E9. The map traced to the mountains, a stretch of wilderness 2 hours from the border. She packed up, bought a second-hand car, and drove into the hills. By nightfall, the road had vanished into fog and pine. The forest swallowed everything, the sound of engines, the hum of the city, even her thoughts. The coordinates led to a chain-link fence hidden behind the trees. Beyond it stood a row of low concrete buildings, their windows dark, their roofs sagging. A faded sign on the gate read, E9 Research Division. Property of Volkov Industries. Her throat tightened. Her family name on the metal looked wrong, like a scar reopened. She slipped through the gap in the fence and crossed the yard, the flashlight beam trembling slightly. Inside the first building, she found dust-covered consoles, overturned chairs, and old lab coats hanging like ghosts from hooks. On one wall, a map showed network lines spreading across continents. At the center, a symbol, 2 circles interlocked, labeled Project Glass. She took a photo, then moved deeper into the corridor. At the end, behind a heavy door, was a room that still hummed with power. Monitors flickered to life as she entered. A single camera turned and focused on her face. A voice came through the speaker, calm, familiar, chilling. Elena. You finally came home. Her heart stuttered. Who are you? The voice chuckled softly. Don't you recognize your father's voice? The door on the far side of the lab hissed open. 2 figures stepped through, older, grayer, but unmistakably her parents. Dr. Mikhail Volkov was tall, lean, his hair white at the temples. Dr. Anna Volkov followed close behind, her eyes bright and wary, hands folded tightly. Elena couldn't move. For a second, she was 10 years old again, hearing their laughter echo through the old house, before the night the car exploded and everything changed. You're supposed to be dead, she whispered. Anna's eyes softened. We were. Officially. Why? Elena demanded. Why fake it? Why let us think you were gone? Mikhail's voice was steady, clinical. Because the work was too dangerous. We couldn't risk being found. Project Glass was meant to protect the country until men like Castrati corrupted it. Elena's voice shook. He killed Isabel. Because of you. Anna flinched. Mikhail only sighed. She was warned. She wanted to expose us. She didn't understand that sometimes the world isn't ready for the truth. The truth. Elena stepped closer. You built a system that erased people. You made ghosts out of the living. And you call that protection? Her father's expression didn't change. It kept peace for decades. It was necessary. Elena stared at him, at both of them, and realized there was no remorse in their eyes. Only conviction. Whatever they had been before, love had long been replaced by purpose. You don't know what you've unleashed, Mikhail said. The network still exists. It can't die. You've only killed the men who misused it. Others will come. You can't run from it, Elena. You're part of it. I'm not, she said. Anna stepped forward, her voice soft but urgent. You are. You and your sister were born into this. You carry the code in your DNA, the final encryption key. Without you, the system can't function. That's why they wanted you alive. Elena's stomach turned cold. You made us part of your experiment. You were our legacy, her mother whispered. No, Elena said quietly. We were your collateral. Behind them, one of the consoles beeped. A video feed blinked to life, a figure in a cell, chained but breathing. Elena's heart lurched. Adrian. He was alive. Mikhail watched her reaction carefully. He's an obstacle. We couldn't risk him leaving here. But he's unharmed. For now. Elena took a step toward the monitors. Where is he? Below, Anna said. You shouldn't interfere. Elena's hand moved to her gun. Watch me. The elevator creaked as it descended into the facility's lower levels. The air smelled of ozone and cold metal. Every second that passed felt stretched thin. When the doors opened, she found a row of reinforced cells. Adrian was in the last one, sitting on the floor, bruised but conscious. He looked up as the door slid open. You're supposed to be halfway to another continent. She half laughed, half sobbed. You're supposed to be dead. He stood, wincing slightly. Family reunion gone wrong? You could say that. She aimed at the lock and fired. The cell door rattled open. As soon as he stepped out, alarms began to blare. Red lights spun across the corridor. They know you're here, he said. I don't care. They ran together through the twisting halls, the echo of their footsteps mixing with the sirens. When they reached the main lab, Mikhail and Anna were waiting, flanked by armed security. Don't do this, Anna pleaded. You don't understand what's at stake. Elena raised her weapon. You made me understand. Adrian stepped forward. We walk out, or this place burns. Mikhail's expression hardened. If you destroy this, the world loses the only protection it has. No, Elena said. It loses the people who think they're gods. She pulled the trigger. The glass control panel shattered. Sparks exploded, screens flickered, and a cascade of error codes filled the monitors. Stop, her father shouted, rushing forward, but Adrian grabbed him, forcing him back. Elena turned to her mother. For a moment, their eyes met, one filled with fury, the other with sorrow. I loved you, Elena said. Both of you. But not enough to become you. Then she shot the power core. The explosion was smaller than she expected, a burst of light, a wave of heat, the smell of burning wires. The alarms cut out, replaced by the groan of collapsing metal. Adrian pulled her toward the exit. Move. They sprinted down the corridor as fire chased them, the building shuddering. When they burst into the rain outside, the roof of the facility gave way behind them. They ran until they reached the fence line and collapsed on the wet grass, gasping for air. The mountain glowed orange for a moment, then fell silent. Elena lay staring up at the grey sky, the rain washing the soot from her face. They're gone, she whispered. Adrian looked at her. You did what you had to. She turned to him. And now? He hesitated. Now we start over. If that's still possible. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the ground tremble beneath her. Somewhere deep inside, she knew the system hadn't died completely, ghosts never die that cleanly. But for now, there was quiet. She took Adrian's hand and held it tightly, not as a promise, but as proof that something human still survived. The rain fell harder, drumming against the earth like applause for the end of a tragedy no one would ever write down. Every story has two sides, and this one isn't over yet. If you want to know what comes after the fire, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and step back into the shadows with me.